Desire the thing you avoid looking at. There's a saying that goes like this: almost everything in life is about sex except sex, because sex is really about power. Sounds strange, maybe even silly. But take a moment, ask yourself honestly, what is quietly driving your choices, your urges, even your anxiety every single day? You work like crazy, chase money, seek recognition, try to conquer. But deep down, do you really know what you're chasing? There's a silent force pulling you forward, and most of the time you haven't dared to name it. Desire. It's not just about sex. It shows up when you feel empty but don't know what's missing. In that hollow feeling after you've released everything from your body. In the restlessness, the fatigue, the irritation you can't explain. Desire isn't evil. It's a powerful energy living inside you. But if you don't face it, if you keep brushing it aside, it will start running your life from the shadows every time you lose control. Every time you choose something that leaves you emptier. Every time you feel lost. That's not random. That's desire speaking through you. Have you ever felt like you're filled with energy but have no idea where to put it? Like you're wired, but there's nowhere to plug in. So you let it slip away, day after day. Then you wonder why you've lost your spark, your drive, your hunger for something more. If you don't learn to understand your desire, it will choose your life for you. And most times, it will choose in ways that pull you further away from who you really are. So what exactly is this desire, and why does it live so deeply inside every man? Libido, the engine you keep wasting. Freud called it libido, but not in the way most people think. In psychoanalysis, libido isn't just about sex, then it's life energy, the inner force that drives us to create, to love, to fight, to build, to stay alive. It's the fuel behind your desire to get up and do something meaningful, to prove your worth, to be seen, to be remembered. It powers the masterpieces, the bold decisions, the battles won, and every time you push through fear to become more than you were the day before. And in men, libido tends to run stronger, rougher, more intense, like raw electricity. If you channel it well, it can light up your whole life. But if it runs wild and unchecked, it short circuits. And when it does, it doesn't just burn you out from the inside. It destroys everything you were trying to build. Have you ever woken up feeling charged with purpose, like today? You could actually do something that matters. But then you grab your phone, you scroll, you get distracted, you procrastinate. The energy you felt that morning was real. But by noon, it's gone. You're not lazy. You're not broken. You're just leaking your libido into the wrong places, into open tabs, endless videos, conversations that go nowhere. And day after day, you start to believe you're someone with no drive. The truth is, you're not low on energy. You just don't know where to put it. And if men are born with an engine this powerful, then maybe there was once a time when the world taught them how to use it, how to direct it, how to hold it and transform it into something far bigger than themselves. So what did the men of the past learn to do to stop their own libido from burning them to the ground? When men learn to turn desire into power, there's a psychological mechanism Freud called sublimation. It's not suppression, it's not denial, it's transformation. When you take sexual energy and turn it into action, when you take raw desire and channel it into creativity, when your most primal urges are redirected into something that actually builds the world. And that's what shaped history. The greatest eras of human progress often aligned with times when men weren't allowed to live by their impulses. They didn't have easy access to pleasure, no abundance of options, no release valve every night. Instead, they lived under discipline, under boundaries, under systems of religion, philosophy, honor, forcing them to hold on to that energy and use it in service of something greater than themselves. That's when cities were built, continents were explored, ideas were born, epics were written, wars were fought, inventions emerged, men endured pain. And still, they rose, not because they were better than men today, but because they didn't have the luxury of ease. They didn't have shortcuts to escape their own tension. Libido, when held correctly, becomes the foundation for persistence, for creativity, for greatness. And you felt this before, when the pressure inside you became too much, when your whole body tightened like a pulled string, when you had to choose collapse or act. So you ran, you lifted, you worked like hell. And strangely, your mind became clearer than it had been in weeks. That clarity wasn't random. It was the moment your life force got redirected. And this has happened to you more times than you realize. You just never called it libido. You might think greatness requires inspiration, motivation, talent, but no. Greatness is not born from inspiration. It's born from energy that was held back, then transformed. But to transform it, you need the right container, discipline, a world that doesn't make things too easy. And that's the problem. Today's world no longer supports that kind of tension. And maybe that's why, even with everything available, men are still missing the one thing they need the most: inner power. When cheap pleasure destroys a man's inner power, modern society has created something called the quick escape, a tool that's always there when you feel restless, agitated, or disconnected. It costs nothing, requires no effort, asks for no acceptance. In just a few seconds, it promises relief without any real involvement from you. It's called porn. You don't need to conquer anything. You don't have to improve yourself. You don't need to earn anyone's affection. You simply open your phone and pick whatever body type you want, whatever fantasy your mind craves. Everything is instantly available, and none of it demands anything from you in return. The truth is, the modern man now possesses a virtual harem greater than any emperor in history. But what he receives in return isn't power. It's a lingering emptiness. You felt it before, after the release. You sit there, quiet, alone. No sense of conquest, no real connection. Just a strange hollow space, a vague sadness. A kind of tiredness that doesn't come from the body but from somewhere deeper. Because when you release your libido too quickly, too easily, you rob yourself of the energy to do anything else. You lose the desire to get up, the drive to build, the hunger to chase something real. Libido was supposed to be fuel for greatness. But now, it's drained before it ever becomes anything. You think you're free, that you're doing what you want. But no, you're not free. You're caught in a loop, quiet, shameful, numbing. You're not in control of it anymore, because you've forgotten what it feels like to be in control. Porn doesn't give you freedom. It makes you forget you ever had it. And when a man loses his ability to hold on to his life force, he also loses the one thing that once set him apart, the desire to build, to become, to rise. So what happens when an entire generation of men no longer wants to transform, no longer wants to create, and instead slowly surrenders to silent comfort? When a man no longer wants to build anything. Men used to build the world. They raised cities, designed systems, expanded borders, wrote philosophies, sparked revolutions. And all of it started from a deep energy inside, from libido, held back and transformed into something greater than themselves. But now the modern man has comfort, has freedom, has instant access to every kind of pleasure. Yet many of them no longer want to build anything. Not for others, not even for themselves. When libido is constantly drained with ease, something vital begins to disappear. You lose drive, you lose hunger, you lose the very sense of who you are. You stop trying, stop reaching, stop believing there's even something worth striving for. And that's where the decline begins. Not because you failed, but because you no longer care enough to try. You stop dreaming, stop pushing, stop imagining that life could be more than just getting through the day. You used to have dreams, something that made you burn with purpose just thinking about it. But lately, all you want is to scroll until your fingers ache. Do just enough to get by, smile just enough to not be questioned, sleep just enough to start the cycle again, as if little pieces of you were slowly retreating, day by day. The real danger isn't that you don't have goals, it's that you no longer feel the need to have any. And somewhere along the way, you convinced yourself that's normal, that everyone feels this way, that maybe this is what growing up looks like. But it's not. It's the quiet collapse of something sacred inside you, and libido doesn't disappear on its own. It's worn down, piece by piece, by a modern world that unknowingly helps it rot away. Because today, the world doesn't need you to be powerful. It just needs you to be obedient. Comfort is making you weaker without you realizing it. Freud once said something that sounds deeply contradictory. The more civilized we become, the more miserable we feel. The more comfort we gain, the more we lose our ability to endure. Modern society has succeeded in making everything easier. You no longer need to leave your house to get food, no need for physical labor to survive, no need to fight to be loved. Everything is available, everything is convenient, everything is one click away. And slowly, your survival instinct begins to fall asleep. Libido, once the source of creation, ambition, and inner strength, now gets numbed by buttons and apps. A man doesn't need to be strong anymore. He just needs to know which app to open, which service to order, which dopamine hit to reach for next. You're not getting weaker because you're lacking something. You're getting weaker because you no longer have to be strong. No one is pushing you to conquer anything greater than yourself. No environment is forcing you to evolve. No failure cuts deep enough to make you truly change. And then one day, you realize something painfully simple. That the easier life becomes, the more useless you feel. Light on burdens, but heavy in your mind. Surrounded by options, but nothing that truly demands your effort or brings out your best. The scariest part is this: you think you chose comfort, but maybe you're just living inside the path of least resistance that society designed for you. A lifestyle that demands little but also never calls you to rise. If you've ever felt yourself getting weaker day by day, it's not because you're incapable. It's because nothing around you is forcing you to be capable anymore. So if you really want to reclaim your strength, if you want to live as a man in the fullest sense, what is the path that can lead you back to your true inner power? Hold on to desire like a sacred fire that needs to be trained. Libido is not something to be dumped and forgotten. It's the deepest life energy inside you. The force that makes you want to rise, to prove, to become. But that same libido, if misused, will quietly strip you of every ounce of drive you once had. Holding on to desire doesn't mean suppressing it. It's not about denial. It's not pretending you don't have needs. It's about learning to contain it with clarity, with discipline. To see it as natural, but not let it take the wheel. A man who learns to do that stops chasing cheap pleasure. He uses that energy to forge himself, to focus, to act, to build something greater than himself. Libido, when held long enough, turns into commitment, into self-mastery, into an inner fire that no one can give you because it can only come from you. You don't have to change your whole life overnight, but you can start with something small. Hold on to your energy. Just for tonight. Don't let it slip away like it always has. Let it stay. Let it build. Let yourself feel that quiet strength you've been missing. If you saw yourself in this video, know this: you're not alone. There's a whole generation of men beginning to wake up, learning to look desire in the eye, no longer running from it, no longer being ruled by it, but walking forward with it consciously. And this is where they belong, where you belong, a space for men coming back to themselves, not with noise, but with real internal awakening. Libido is a key. It has always been in your hand. The question is, will you use it to unlock the strongest version of yourself? Or will you use it to lock yourself inside a life where you're just getting by? You can begin again, right now. And this time, hold on to the fire, because it may be the last thing inside you that's still alive.